Hello and welcome to the December 2nd, 2020 edition of the Bobby Hesley Show. Got started a little bit late today. Had a lot going on, folks. Had a lot going on in my business life. I usually try to broadcast in the mornings. So how's everybody doing today? Come on. Talk to your man, Bobby Hesley. Are you discouraged again? It seems like every day there's something that happens, whether it's somebody in the media, whether it's somebody from the Democrats, whether it's even somebody from our own Republican Party, these spineless rhino Republicans, these blue blood country club Republicans that are pretty much Democrat light. I call them Republicrats because that's basically what they are, the Mitt Romney types. They'd actually be more honest and have a little bit more integrity if they just defected over to the Democrat side. I think they actually are Democrats. I think they're Democrat moles and operatives that infiltrate our party and undermine us at every level. And whether it's Democrats, whether it's Republicans, whether it's the media, or whether it's even people that are within the Trump administration, that are within the federal government, people that are supposed to be working with Donald Trump, working for Donald Trump to do their job in their government positions that they're supposed to be in, like Attorney General Bill Barr, for example. I'm sure a lot of you guys kind of maybe freaked out a little bit, maybe got a little bit discouraged, saying that Bill Barr, you know, when you heard Bill Barr say, hey, there's not any proof of any widespread fraud. That probably took the wind out of a lot of your sails, didn't it? It didn't take it out of mine. It didn't surprise me at all. As a matter of fact, I'm actually surprised that it took William Barr as long as it took for him to say what he said. I saw that coming from 100 miles away, guys. You know why? Because the guy hasn't done anything yet. This fraud stuff has been going on since November 3rd, November 4th. We're coming up on a month, guys. Do you guys realize that the election was literally 30 days ago? It's December 2nd now. We are already at the 1 month anniversary of the eve of the election 2020. And yet Bill Barr didn't do anything to help Donald Trump during this entire time, to help uncover and fight this fraud. What good is the Department of Justice? What good is the FBI? What good is the CIA? What good is the NSA, the National Security Agency? Because this was a national security issue because we had foreign interference. What good is the Department of Homeland Security if they're not going to step in when an election's being stolen with all kinds of bad actors, both foreign and domestic? That's the heart of the Constitution, guys. Everybody who takes a vow for public office, they are implicitly vowing that they are going to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And folks, we have enemies, both foreign and domestic, who have tried to steal this election, who are participating in a coup against President Donald Trump. I believe that we have China meddling. We have Iran meddling. We have a lot of bad actors around the world. We have a lot of rogue countries around the world that do not want to see Donald Trump get a second term. They want to see Joe Biden in there. They want to see Kamala Harris in there so that they can have their way with us as a country. So for all of you folks who are discouraged and upset with William Barr, and I'm going to get to these Michigan Senate hearings in a second, but I just wanted to kind of open with this. I want to ask you a question. Are you really surprised, guys? Are you really surprised at William Barr that he would come out and do that? I mean, think about it, guys. Person after person that we thought had our backs, had the country's back, had President Trump's back, has proven to be just another swamp creature. The further the swamp drains, guys, and don't let anything fool you guys, the fact is the swamp is still draining. Even though it feels like we're losing, even though it seems like we're losing, that swamp is still draining, guys. And the more that thing drains, the more swamp things we see that are at the bottom. But I believe that Bill Barr, just like all of us as a human being, I'm not defending his treacherous actions. I'm just explaining them to help you understand what motivated him to do what he did and to not do what he should have done. Doing what he did, meaning throwing Trump under the bus and saying that there's no widespread fraud. You notice how they keep saying that there's no proof of widespread fraud. How come they're not just saying that there's no proof of fraud? Why are they saying that there's no proof of widespread fraud? I want you guys to zero in on that keyword widespread, because widespread fraud, they keep using that phrase over and over. The media uses it. The Democrats use it. Bill Barr used it. And the fact that they keep using that widespread word tells me that they know deep down and damn well that there is a baseline of voter fraud. Saying that there's no widespread fraud implies that there's some degree of fraud. They're just saying it's not widespread. And I agree. It's not widespread. It's only in the swing states that Biden needs to win. Why is it that the only states that Joe Biden is outperforming Hillary Clinton in are the ones that he needs to win? Like Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Why is that, guys? Because there's not widespread fraud. There's localized fraud in these swing states that need to be won by Biden. And that's what everybody's implying every time they say that there's no widespread fraud. But I believe that William Barr is just trying to keep his job. You got to realize when Trump leaves office, if or when Trump leaves office, I'm just being pragmatic. Let's say for some reason Biden pulls this off, and on January 20th, Donald Trump leaves office. Okay, well, Bill Barr is not going to leave office with Trump. His office isn't scheduled to expire January 20th. Oftentimes, the Secretary of Defense will carry over. Like if you guys remember, Robert Gates carried over. You remember Obama inherited his Secretary of Defense back in 2008. He kept him on for a while, right? So the Biden administration might inherit Bill Barr, and they might like to work with Bill Barr. I think the guy's just trying to keep his job. I think that everybody who should have Donald Trump's back have lost their faith. They're all linguini-spined wimps, and they're just trying to look out for themselves. They're just rats bailing off what they think is the sinking ship. And they're not willing to go down on the ship with Trump. They're trying to do whatever they can to save their jobs. I think Bill Barr is giving a little wink to the supposedly incoming Biden administration so that he can keep his job. That's what I think. But Gateway Pundit has been really good at tracking all these fraud stories. So here's just some examples from the last 48 hours, and then I'm going to get into these Michigan Senate hearings. Listen to this, guys. For all you where's the proof people, why doesn't Bill Barr look at any of this? This is just what's been tracked from the last 48 hours, guys. These are just some recent examples of sworn affidavit witness testimonies that carry the criminal penalty of perjury of 5 years in prison if they are false, that have just turned up in the last 48 hours between the Arizona hearings and the Michigan hearings. Listen to this. Truckloads of ballots arrived in Arizona 10 days after vote counting seemingly ended. Think of that. Biden ballots in Michigan were scanned 8 to 10 times. Over 100,000 Wisconsin late ballots backdated to November 3rd. Dominion, by failing to pay taxes, was not allowed to operate in Missouri, yet they did anyway. Michigan poll watchers watched dollies full of Biden ballots arrive at 4 a.m. 2 trailers full of completed ballots went from Pennsylvania to New York, with one traveling on November 4th, which means they would have had to have been backdated. You can't be turning in ballots past the deadline, guys. That's just not how it works in this country. Georgia election officials alleged film destroying evidence. Michigan and Georgia campaign operatives tampered with military ballots. So there's your proof, Barr. Look into it, man. Sick the FBI on this. Get all these Department of Justice agencies that you oversee in on this. But I don't think he wants to do that, because I think he's trying to hold on to his job, and I think he's trying to have a carryover term with the incoming Biden-Harris administration if they end up pulling this thing off. So moving on from that, we lost a great African-American today, folks. One of my heroes died today. I'm pretty bummed out about it. I'm very bummed out. But I'm glad that I didn't broadcast this morning, because he died not too long after I would have been broadcasting. So I would have missed it today. I wouldn't have been able to cover it today. And that's Walter E. Williams. Walter E. Williams passed away today, folks. Him and Thomas Sowell, who are very good friends, by the way. Walter E. Williams and Thomas Sowell are, in my opinion, some of the 2 greatest, along with Clarence Thomas, Justice Clarence Thomas. I think those 3 are the 3 greatest black intellectuals of our time. I really do. And he passed away I used to love Walter E. Williams. And I was honored that he actually quoted one of my articles. For those of you who know, one of my go-to sites that I love to, quote from is the American Thinker. And this was an article that I wrote 2 years ago titled Illegal Aliens, the New Black Vote for Democrats. I encourage you guys to head over to my YouTube channel. I will link to this article. Read it. It's a great article, I think. And it got the attention of Dr. Walter E. Williams. And he actually quoted my article and one that he wrote called Who Benefits from Democratic Control? And if you could see my screen, I don't have time to read the whole article, but he quotes me here saying, Bobby Hesley, a Catholic speaker, writer, and conservative political commentator, writes, quote, Black people are finally starting to wake up and unplug themselves from the liberal matrix that has ruled their reality for over a half a century. To that I say good, with an exclamation point. These are Walter E. Williams' words. It is unwise to be a one-party people in a two-party system. Walter E. Williams is a professor of economics at George Mason University. His column is distributed by Creator Syndicate. So I'm very honored by that, guys. I'm extremely honored that an intellectual, a Black intellectual with the stature of Walter E. Williams, thought enough of this guy named Bobby Hesley, who grew up in Brightmoor, Detroit, who does not have a college education. I don't have a degree. It's one of the best decisions I ever made was to not go to college. And I'm just honored that this guy quoted me. Of all the people he could have quoted, he quoted your man, Bobby Hesley. So, guys, I got to say, win, lose, or draw, no matter how this thing shakes out, I am so proud of Black Voices for Trump, particularly the Detroit Outreach Office on 7 Mile in Livernois in the city of Detroit. That building, that place is always going to have a special place in my heart. I mean that. Win, lose, or draw, no matter how this thing shakes out. I have forged lifelong friendships and lifelong alliances with just some awesome Trump supporters, Black and white, guys. We had people of all races that came to the Black Voices for Trump Detroit Outreach Office. Of course, we had Blacks because it's Black Voices for Trump. But we had whites. We had people like my good friend Eddie Labs, my good friend Vance Patrick, who ran for district. We had a Women for Trump meeting at the Black Voices for Trump office when Lara Trump, the daughter-in-law of President Trump and the wife of his son Eric, came. We had Chaldeans that came. We had people of all races and genders and walks of life that came to that building for different events that we had. We hosted awesome people like Dr. Ben Carson. And everybody showed up, and I did door-to-door outreach with these awesome people. People like my good friends Celeste and Jeffrey Mentag, Robin Barnes, Dr. Linda Lee Tarver, Angelique Johnson, another good friend of mine. I had the pleasure of meeting the Barr family, who's a very distinguished, talented, Christian church family here in Michigan. They have their own church in Rochester. Awesome people, the Barrs. I met them at the Black Voices for Trump office. Apostle Keith Barr literally laid hands on me at the Black Voices for Trump office. If you go to my wall, you can see the picture that was taken of that. Awesome people I met. My good friend Ty Bundy. And I know I'm doing this off the top of my head, and I apologize if I forgot any names. But some of the people, not some, all of the people that I'm going to be showing in this video today, that you guys are going to see in these video clips, that's going to show you so much voter fraud that it's going to make your head spin. That's under sworn affidavits, by the way. Sworn affidavits, guys. Penalties of perjury if they're not true. I'm going to show you guys some clips of my friends that I am proud to say, that I am proud and honored to say are my friends. Not just on some shallow level. Not friends in the sense of, oh, we're Facebook friends. No, I'm talking genuine friends. People that I've spent time with in person. People that I have labored with side by side in person. In fact, 2 of the people on this video, I had the pleasure of spending Thanksgiving with. And in case you're wondering if I'm some cold-hearted son that wouldn't spend Thanksgiving with his mom, Unfortunately, my mom's in a nursing home, so I was not able to spend Thanksgiving with her. I did do a window visit with her. I had my mask on even through the window. But after my window visit, I headed over to my good friend Robin Barnes' house, where we had an awesome Thanksgiving meal with Dr. Linda Lee Tarver, with Christina Carello, my other good friend Wayne Bradley, who's a consultant for the Michigan GOP. These are all people that I met at the Black Voices for Trump Detroit office. And I'm going to play you guys some video clips, one by one, of some people that are just rocking the world. They are just rocking the worlds of all these people who think that there was no voter fraud. So I'm going to roll the first video. Let's roll the first video. And this starts with my good friend, Christina Caramo of the Caramo Project. Check it out.
Thank you, Senator Tice. Next, we have Christina Caramo, followed by Monica Palmer.
Get the name right, pal. It
Karen
ain't Caramo.
Curtis.
It's Caramo. Pronounce it right, pal.
Ms. Caramo? I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly.
It's Caramo.
Caramo, thank you.
Quite all right.
Welcome to the Senate Oversight Committee. You have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you for having me. So I was a poll challenger at the TCF Center on Monday, November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. On November 4th, early in the morning, I was standing at the adjudication table and a ballot came across the screen. The ballot had a straight party ticket vote for both the Democrat and the Republican. It was a filled-in circle, which is an intentional mark. It's not a dash, it's not a dot. When the ballot came across the screen, there was no other marks. None of the judges and none of the other ballot proposals had been voted on. The poll worker then said, I think I'm going to give it to the Democrats. That's absolutely absurd. That is illegal. The vote should have been tossed out. At that moment, I said, absolutely not. I'm going to challenge this. So I go get her supervisor. And then her supervisor defers to her and says, well, what do you think? And I'm like, well, what do you think? It doesn't matter what you think. It's the law. Our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts are totally irrelevant. You follow the law. And that ballot is to be tossed out. But she wanted to give it to the Democrats. So then I go get the gentleman who was overseeing the entire absentee ballot counting process while Daniel Baxter was gone. So this gentleman's name I do not know. I go get him. He's overseeing the entire process while Daniel Baxter is gone. I ask him. He says to the girl, what do you think? It was disgusting. I was enraged. And I simply asked a question. I said, well, why not give it to the Republicans instead of the Democrats? The gentleman began screaming at me, began yelling at me, began telling me that I had no right to talk to her, and he told her to push the ballot through. And prior to that, that same poll worker, a ballot came across the adjudication screen where this voter had voted for Joe Biden and the Green Party presidential candidate, and she gave the vote to Joe Biden. I also saw the ballots show up in the middle of the night. Also, I inquired about the tabulation numbers from the tabulation machine between shift changes. I was denied that information. We saw a lot of irregular things. This is not an anomaly. Just because all of us have different accounts of what we saw, that doesn't make them invalid. And to expect Secretary Benson to actually do something about it is foolhardy. To accept Dan and Essel to do anything about it would be foolhardy. So we're appealing to you guys to do something about it. Because if our elections aren't fair, then we have no republic left. It's a banana republic. We have nothing. And we don't trust the election process. Why do you think a lot of people don't vote? Because they feel it's a big fraud. So our claims are being dismissed. I mean, Secretary Benson dismissed us before she did any investigation. So clearly she can't be trusted to do her job. It's not our job to conduct an investigation. There are paid officials who are to do that. And we're imploring you guys to please step up and listen to us and investigate our claims. Check us out. Don't just take our word. Investigate what we had to say, because we have nothing left. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any members have a question?
She killed it.
Vice Chair Lucido, please.
You killed it, Christina.
Thank you. Extremely insightful. All these accounts that you've indicated, and it's been pretty clear. I mean, it doesn't seem like you're on the edge. You're sitting right here in front of us. Has any of these accounts gone to the attorneys that are representing the candidate or candidates?
I did submit an affidavit. They are pursuing lawsuits, but we also
Sworn
need our
affidavit,
Attorney General
folks.
to investigate it, because ultimately it's her job to enforce the law.
I agree.
Boom.
And if she doesn't do her job, we can't just accept that as, oh, I'm just not going to do it. You guys are lying.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Boom.
Thank you, Senator Lucido. I don't have any other questions. Thank you so much. Did you submit written testimony?
Okay. No, I did not. No, I can though.
Please do.
All
Thank
righty.
you.
Thank you.
Killed it, fam. Christina Caramo, guys, listen. I want to plug Christina's channel. I want you guys to go to YouTube. Firstly, please subscribe to all my social media channels. I make it very easy to do in the description section. Please comment on this video, like this video, share this video. Let me see some love emojis in shout out and in support of my sister from another mister, Christina Caramo. Let me see some heart emojis for Christina, guys. Didn't she knock it out of the park? People applauded. In a room that's supposed to be neutral, that has a bunch of gavels on the desk that they can slam down if the crowd gets too out of control. Gavels be damned. They applauded to Sister Caramo's written and spoken testimony that is a sworn affidavit. So I want you guys to go to Christina's YouTube channel. It's called the Christina Caramo Project. She's got some awesome videos. You know, look at the kind of stuff that she talks about. She speaks out against pornography. She speaks out against all kinds of things on all kinds of topics. It's a great channel, guys. So please be sure to subscribe to her channel. Now, I'm going to play the next set of testimonies. Next up is also a personal friend of mine. Okay, again, these aren't just people who, you know, I see them post on Facebook every once in a while and, you know, I hit the like button and we're kind of friends. No, these are people that I have rallied with. These are people that I have supported Donald Trump with. I am honored to call them my friends. I'm honored. So next up is my good friend Jasmine Early. Now keep in mind, these are all people who were at the TCF Center in Detroit. I was there myself. And you guys know that there's a 36-minute video documentary that I made where we were not allowed into the TCF Center at either entrance. We were blocked at every entrance. They blocked the elevators. They literally put their hand over the elevator to where we couldn't even call up the elevator to go down. And there were people that were walking out, and for everybody that was supposed to walk out, another one was supposed to walk in. So my good friend Jasmine Early, who I've been to multiple Trump rallies with, this is her testimony. Now, for those of you who think that Trump supporters are a bunch of hood-wearing, goose-walking, Hitler-saluting, KKK, white supremacist racists, okay? The first testimony that you just saw was from a black woman, okay? A black female. The next testimony that you're going to see, which again is a sworn affidavit that carries the penalty of perjury if it's not true, is from a woman named Jasmine Early. She is an immigrant, a legal immigrant. She paid the taxes. She learned the language. She got in line. She got on the waiting list. She did it the right legal way. She didn't cut in line like a lot of people advocate people do. She did it the right way, and she came to America. And she came to America from South America so that she can flee these bogus elections that they have in these South American countries. She came to America so that she can get away from the very thing that we are going through right now with this stolen election. She fled South America legally so that she could get away from people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I want you guys to hear what she had to say. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to listen to Sister Jasmine's testimony.
Witnessed this on several. It was a little.
Thank you very much. Up, I have Jasmine Early, and followed then by Artisha Bulmer, and then Charles Richard. Ms. Early, welcome
Thank
to the
you.
Senate Oversight Committee. You have 3 minutes.
She knocks it out of the
Thank you.
park, guys. Watch how she kills
I'm going to
this.
start with an Hispanic from South America with a bad grandmother and a Hispanic Indian native mom. I believe in one race, the human race. With that said, I can tell you that I'm not a racist. I'm a legal immigrant who is an Indian native mom. I believe in one race, the human race. With that said, I can tell you that I'm not a racist. I'm a legal immigrant who is speaking here because I took my pledge to become an American citizen very seriously. I was a Republican certified poll challenger at the TCF Senate from November 4th to November 5th. I was one of the victims of harassment, discrimination, and intimidation by election workers while I was fulfilling my duty as a challenger. What the witness has shared are no conspiracy theories. Several times, election workers tried to remove me from the room with the false accusations that I was impeding their process. They were the ones who blocked me from seeing the ballots, and when allowed, workers would complain. An election worker was brought up to harass me with the base of being too close. However, among themselves, they didn't social distance. I explained to him that I was only following the chairperson direction in and out. Somehow we got to the point that English was not my first language, and he implied that then I shouldn't be there. I told him that he was discriminating and that he was treating me like garbage. He went away. Later, poll workers whispered to each other and brought police officers to remove me. It was pretty intimidating having officers approaching me when I had not done anything wrong. I understood they were trying to do their job. I noticed an officer was Hispanic, and I talked to him in Spanish. They were being lied. The officer started backing up. I witnessed many Republicans being kicked out of the room, and it was scary. That is not the America I came to a few decades ago. They were mad, kicked out, and not replaced, even though they were Republicans outside to be allowed to enter. It didn't happen. Since I was not able to see the poll books and didn't have anything to compare with, I was legally advised to challenge every ballot. The workers got pretty upset about it and advised to their people not to stop the process and dismiss any challenge. I had pages of notes of ballots. Here I had an affidavit where I can prove you that I didn't see, we couldn't do anything. There were people entered with a 11900, and I took the time to check those people. They didn't allow me to challenge it. The names of the people are here. While the Democrats are dismissing the finding from challengers, if those people were alive and registered to vote, why they were manually entered? Why weren't the ballot boxes properly sealed by the workers? Several of them were unattended, and I had a list of those tables. Me and another challenger questioned why those boxes were unsealed. The election director proceeded to seal them. As an American citizen and on behalf of the people of Michigan, I'm here to demand that you remember you took an oath to defend the country from enemy, domestic and foreign. Remember, it is your moral, ethical, and lawful duty today to seek for an investigation on the chain of custody. Demand election integrity. Demand a detailed forensic audit. You can go into history as the heroes for doing something right for this country and bringing to light what is hidden, or as cowards who didn't have the courage to protect the election integrity. You will be remembered as those who took a courageous and political incorrect stand, or as dishonest people who side with the fraud. It is your choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah! You could go down in history as heroes or as cowards. Preach it, Jasmine. Preach it. Listen, everybody that looks down on people that have thick accents that come from other countries, that say, oh, you have a thick accent, you must not be as smart or as intelligent as me. You know what? Jasmine Early, who I have rallied with numerous times, like on the corner of 14 Mile and Ryan Road and Sterling Heights, she came more prepared with more notes and more clear and coherent thoughts and more proof and more evidence than all these clowns, all these Russia hoax, all these Ukraine hoax, all these fake impeachment Democrats did in the last 3.5 years. And you know what, folks? She ain't done yet.
Senator McDonald has a question.
Just want to say hi to Jasmine. Jasmine is a constituent of mine. How are you?
I'm good.
I don't have a question. I just want to say I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that every one of you had to go through this experience. I think it's reprehensible. And I think it's unforgivable. So thank you.
It was hate toward us. That is how I described being there. I didn't come to a country that I will be mistreated in that way.
Exactly.
I love this country.
She
I will
fled a
stand and
country that was
fight for
mistreating
it,
her.
But nobody, doesn't really matter. I didn't grow up seeing people by skin colors. No matter who you are, no matter where you came from,
Amen.
You should seek
Preach
for
it.
integrity, because outside the country, we see America as an honest people, filled with honest people with integrity. I want that to be preserved, and that is why we are here.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator McDonald. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for
I
your
will-
testimony.
Guys, I want you to go over to my YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't done so yet, but I've got this entire 7-hour video on my channel, and I highly recommend that you watch the entire 7 hours, guys. I'm not saying you have to sit down in one sitting and do it, but put your phone in your pocket, have your headsets on, and just watch this, listen to this whole thing while you're cleaning, while you're cooking, while you're walking on the treadmill. I think you guys need to listen to 7 straight hours of back to back to back to back to back sworn testimony written with affidavits under the criminal penalty of perjury of dozens upon dozens of eyewitness accounts from poll challengers, poll workers, election officials, of all the dirty deeds that went down at the TCF Center. Now, your man, Bobby Hesley, who loves and cares about you, I sifted through a lot of it, and I wanted to bring out what I felt were some of the most powerful testimonies. And I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit biased. I'm showing my friends, my real life friends, because I am so proud of them. I am so proud of them for standing up for our country and for standing up for disenfranchised Republican voters, many of which were black, many of which who lived in Detroit, like my next friend you're about to hear about, who is a Detroit resident. She is a mother, and she is a black Detroit resident. And her vote was disenfranchised 1950s Jim Crow style by the same wicked Democrat Party that has been disenfranchising black people since 1619, or at least since 1828 when they were founded. So we're going to listen to my next friend, Artisha Balmer.
I gave you a copy of the affidavit that was given to the lawyer.
Please.
Thank you.
Next, we have Artisha Bolmer.
Guys, I got to say, before I play my homegirl, Artisha, she stole the show, guys. I'm going to be honest. I got a little bit, and I don't cry a lot, guys. And it's not because I'm just this macho, heartless guy. I don't know. When you live a rational lifestyle like I do, you don't cry a lot. But I got to be honest. When I watched my friend Artisha Balmer give her testimony, I got a little bit misty-eyed. I'm not going to lie. I got a little bit misty-eyed. And I think you're going to, when you see her passion, when you see her honesty, when you see how genuine and sincere she is, you're going to get a little bit misty-eyed like I did. Now, does my friend Jasmine Early, does she look like a bigot to you? Does she look like a racist to you? Does she look like somebody who hates black people? She worked at the TCF Center, and look at everything that she dealt with. There are minorities, there are blacks, there are women. There are all kinds of people that the left goes out of their way to try to act like they champion. Blacks, women, Hispanics, minorities. But when it's on the other side, when they're Republicans, they don't care about these people. So let's listen to my friend, Sister Balmer, knock it out of the park, guys. Grab your Kleenex. Listen to this.
Oh, my apologies, ma'am. Thank you.
Senator.
And then after Artisha, we have Charles.
She rocks
Richard,
their world.
and after him, Evan Schock.
Listen to her rock their world, guys.
Welcome to the Senate Oversight Committee. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, committee. I am so happy to be here. Let me put my hat back on because this is my prize right here. This is the winner who won the election before it was cheated, before it was fraudulently cheated. It was cold and calculated fraud. And as a sidebar,
Preach
for
it,
Senator
fam.
Santana, if
Preach
Black
it.
Lives Matter, why did you skip me?
Oh.
Anyway, let me get on. Senator McBroom, sir, when I first saw your name, 2 things instantly came to my mind. One, will you sweep my testimony under the rug like the other people have done, such as Dana Nessel, who's in the fraud, check, Governor Whitmer, fraud, check, and all of the above, check. Or will you sweep me off my feet by taking my testimony as facts rather than fiction? My name is Artisha Balmer. I am an adult citizen, resident, state of Michigan, also a registered voter. I was trained and credentialed to be a poll challenger for the November 2020 general election. I witnessed many election irregularities and violations of Michigan election law, and I hope that my statement is taken seriously. I am sharing this information under the penalty of perjury that if I testify, I can be locked up if I'm telling a lie, which I am
Catch
not.
that, guys?
On
You hearing
November
this?
3rd, 2020, between 9:30 and 10 p.m., I reported to TCF Center. I was assigned to 2 separate tables, absentee voting county board, 123 and 120. I immediately noticed things were not normal. Election workers were allowed to wear Biden t-shirts, blue face masks, the ones I recognized on Gretchen Whitmer's face in some of her interviews on Charlie Langston show. I also saw poll workers wearing Black Lives Matter face masks, which is a political movement. Joe
It
Biden
is.
is moving to defund the police. Thank you
Those
very
shirts
much.
are not allowed.
I am not passing judgment on this because I am a proud Black woman from the city of Detroit. Welcome, my sister from the D.
Please direct
Yes,
your
sir.
I
to the chair,
know
ma'am.
this because I've been strictly told not to wear anything of partisan related to my candidates for office. So election supervisors seem to be implementing a double standard. Election workers had jackets, backpacks, purses, etc. on the tables and on the floors. There was no system to check your personal effects. Some people even had coolers for food with them. I don't know what was in them. It could have been ballots for all I know. I observed an election worker pull out a ballot from an envelope where the circle was completed next to the name Donald J. Trump. I saw this with my own eyes, all this that I'm saying to you today. I could see this because the marking was at the very top left corner of the ballot. Instead of processing the ballot, I saw the election worker push the ballot back in the envelope and put it in there in a black container on top of the table. I witnessed a meeting between election workers, team leads, where they gathered together and spoke at meetings that was in the left far hand side of the wall. The meeting ended in cheers. Woo! They were just super excited. At approximately 11:43 p.m., I heard one of the team leads yell, "This is our house tonight," and further yell, "They gonna do what we tell them to do from here on out." I
Yes,
took that as
1
they're
minute.
saying, this is the Democrats' house tonight, and the Republicans, independent or whoever, is gonna do what we say tonight. And might I add, I was a U.S. taxpayer party of Michigan candidate at that time, sir. I observed stations where election workers were working on scanned ballots that had issues that needed to be manually corrected. I believe some of these workers were changing votes that had been cast for Donald Trump other than Republican candidates. I observed ballots with cursive writing notes at the top right-hand corner. I observed a lot of them. Let's say a count, maybe about 100 of them or more. I also observed these ballots did not have ballot codes on them. The one, you tear at the top, no ballot code numbers. At approximately 4:03 a.m., a poll worker announced 50 boxes of ballots coming in. Election workers loudly cheered, woo! Why? Did they know that they were for Biden? Was it a Biden dump? We don't know, huh? About 4:50 a.m., I witnessed a man spraying a chemical inside the ballot. It could have been air, but I also saw him put whiteout tape up inside of there, and he was walking around with this whiteout tape during the whole night. I have witnesses. If you need to call on them, their name is Cheryl Constantino, Linda Sawyer, Judy Jump, Debbie Swall, and Marlene
Prepared.
Benser, including myself, our TC bomber. I can't get all into
Thank
this
you.
because I probably got a few more seconds, but let me tell you, it was voter fraud at its finest, pure and calculated fraud. And I wouldn't be surprised if people up here was involved. But this young man right here, Senator McDaniel, Donald, I got to give you kudos. I see you're interested in this. And Senator Thies, I have to give you kudos because I see you're really paying attention. I wish Senator Lucido was here.
Here it comes,
'cause I
y'all.
say he's paying attention. And
Listen.
now I think you will pay attention. And I plead the blood of Jesus over this fraud, and that everybody that was part of it and know about it will be convicted in their soul and their spirit. They won't sleep. They won't
Thank
eat
you,
until
ma'am.
they come right. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you. Questions from
Any questions?
questions from Senator
Oh,
Santana?
you hear that? Any
Yo,
questions?
please.
Thank you, Chair.
Guys. Oh man, I'm getting a little misty eyed again. Whew, give me a second. Do you hear the love in this woman's voice for her country? It goes deeper than love of Donald Trump. Yeah, we love Trump. She's wearing her Trump 2020 hat. But it's people like Artisha Balmer. Why Black Voices for Trump, it's always going to have a place in my heart, guys. I don't care what happens. Win, lose, or draw. I'm never going to forget all these wonderful people that I met at the Black Voice for Trump office in Detroit. Did you see how prepared she was? She had specific notes down to the minute at 4:03 a.m., at 4:17 p.m., at 5:12 p.m. She took notes while she was at the TCF Center, guys, because she saw everything that was going down. And every time she saw some illegality, some unconstitutionality, some irregularity, some cheating, and some fraud, She wrote it down in her notes so that she could bring them. She didn't know about this hearing. She didn't know what was going to happen. But just in case, she took out a little notepad insurance policy on herself, and she wrote these notes just in case she needed to be specific with some powers that be about what she saw with her own eyes inside the TCF Center that I wasn't able to see because the crooks wouldn't let me in. So that's my friend Artisha Balmer. Now, the next clip that I want you guys to see, and before I do that, guys, we're coming up on the end of the broadcast here. If you have not done so yet, please like, please comment, please share this video. Please go to all my social media channels and subscribe. I'm trying to grow all my channels. I got some big things coming, guys. And I'm using all these channels to build the foundation for what's coming. You guys definitely want to be subscribed to everything that I'm on. You want to follow me on all my different platforms because you're going to miss out on a lot of good things if you don't. So, my next friend, my next sister in Christ, who I had the pleasure of spending Thanksgiving with, is the lovely and talented Dr. Linda Lee Tarver. Now, Dr. Linda Lee Tarver is not only one of the classiest women that I know. She's very classy, guys. Very classy. She probably goes to the gym in high heels. I kid you not. I have never, ever once seen Dr. Linda Lee Tarver not dressed to the nines. I've been to all kinds of informal events where I showed up in sweats and shorts and T-shirts, and everybody else did too. And Dr. Linda Lee Tarver was just turning the heads, baby, dressed to the nines. But not only is Dr. Linda Lee Tarver one of the classiest women that I know, she is also one of the sassiest women that I know. And that's what I love most about her. She is as sassy as she is classy. And she's got a whole lot of both. And you know what she did, folks? She took all these government officials that are sitting on this panel. She took them out behind the tool shed and she taught them American Constitutional Law 101. She took them out behind the tool shed and she taught them a lesson in the United States Constitution. And not only am I going to play her 3-minute clip, but I'm also going to play the way she schooled these people. Guys, I believe that Dr. Linda Lee Tarver knew more than all these men and women sitting up on the panel who are actually elected officials. I believe that she educated them. Not only do I know that for a fact, not only did one of them literally say that, they said, Dr. Tarver, we're going to have to ask you to come back. They want her to come back, guys. She schooled these people. She educated them. And I want you to see it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And I want you guys to listen intently to the lovely and talented Dr. Linda Lee Tarver, who I am proud to call my friend, who, again, I met at the Black Voices for Trump Detroit office.
Thank you very much.
Any questions? No, thank you very much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you.
Next, I have Dr. Linda Lee Tarver, followed by Marilyn Fine,
Look at them leather boots.
followed by Michael Haynes.
Look at them knee-high boots. She came rocking into the Senate House.
Hi, Dr.
Hi,
Tarver.
thank you,
Welcome to the
Senators.
committee.
Look at that
Thank you.
class
Thank
and
you so much.
sass.
My name is Linda Lee Tarver. I'm a Michigan voter, former Michigan Civil Rights Commissioner, a retired state employee, and a Republican activist. I'm a public servant under 5 secretaries of state, including Richard Austin, Candace Miller, Terry Lynn Land, Ruth Johnson, and I was delighted to retire under the current Secretary of State. I have been under 7 years under Secretary of State Ruth Johnson. In that role, I was the Community Affairs Director and Election Integrity Liaison. I assisted in preparing cases for referral to Attorney General Bill Schuette to prosecute for voter fraud. Ballot harvesting in Detroit, Flint, and Pontiac has been going on for decades. It's a misdemeanor to give your ballot to anyone not allowed by law to receive it, and it's a felony to take that ballot. People have been prosecuted in Michigan over the years as a result. Ballot stuffing, ballot curing, and complete fraud in the issuance, handling, and processing of ballots has not been addressed, and no election after 2020 should be considered fair unless we get this right this year. The complete hate, disdain, and apathy for Republican poll challengers is but one way of how elections are stolen in Michigan. Before COVID-19, and I'm talking to the Democrat in the House, and in every election in the last 25 years,
By the way, this Democrat she just called out, it's another black woman. Okay? Same one that Artisha Balmer called out.
Republican poll challengers were removed by the police, especially in Pontiac. MCL 168.733 says,
Are you guys listening to this scholar quoting it down to the section and subsection? My gosh, she's being surgical with it. Surgical.
election inspectors and other election officials on duty shall protect a challenger in the discharge of his or her duties. Shall protect is not an option. Shall protect. It is never done in the urban areas. Never, never, never in the urban areas. In the 34 years I've been working for the state of Michigan, and certainly not the 29 years I've been working at the Secretary of State. It also says in subsection 4, a person shall not threaten
One
or
minute.
intimidate a challenger.
Quoting the subsections. You know why she's Dr. Linda Lee Tarver? Because she's surgical with it. Dr. Linda is surgical.
Challenger while performing an activity allowed. You shall not threaten or intimidate. It is a misdemeanor for what they have done, these inspectors, to continue to intimidate and throw out Republican poll challengers. It has been going on too long. 71% of Detroit precincts are large.
Or not let in Republican poll challengers, like in my case.
Larger city cannot be recounted. As always expressed as minor clerical errors, these are not minor. There are touch points in the process for these ballots to be, and the accounting to be done, those ballots to be open. In order for this fraud to be corrected, we need a complete audit. You need to have optics on it. This has always been done in communities of color. It needs to stop. Enforce the laws and ensure, bring in independent inspectors. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I am sick and tired of these Democrats using, abusing, exploiting, manipulating, and taking black people, poor black inner city people, for granted. They use the corpses of dead black men as human shields to raise $2+ billion off the death of George Floyd and not send a dime to the Floyd family. They don't donate monies to neighborhoods to build up schools, to train police forces in de-escalation techniques so that the very things that Black Lives Matter claims to exist for could be reduced if police were funded well enough and trained well enough to specialize in de-escalation techniques. They want to take it in the other direction and defund the police. As Artisha Balmer said when she talked about the people that were illegally wearing the Black Lives Matter shirts that were supposed to be poll counters and vote counters, election officials wearing political Black Lives Matter shirts. They're trying to take it in the other direction and defund the police. A defunded police means less training, which means less de-escalation techniques, which means more killing of blacks. And I said all that to say that Dr. Linda Lee Tarver very intelligently pointed out that the center and the focus of all this voter fraud is in inner city communities where poor black people live. They hide in these black cities. And oftentimes, I hate to say it, oftentimes, the very criminals who are committing these crimes, these black on black crimes of disenfranchising black Republican supporters who live in the city of Detroit, who I have spoken with numerous times, many of them are black. And I hate to say it, but they act like Captain America because they use their skin as both their shield and their weapon. That's who these black liberal is. Bunch of Captain Americas walking around, using their skin color as defensive and as offensive, like Captain America uses his shield. So I want to listen before I close out the broadcast. We got about 10 minutes left before I get to my other good friend, Angelique Johnson. I want you guys to listen to Dr. Linda Lee Tarver school these legislators on how it's supposed to be done with voting. Listen to this.
Thank you, Dr. Tarver. Any members have a question? Senator Tice.
Thank you, Dr. Tarver. I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate your testimony. Also very compelling. Do you have, when you speak about an audit and a complete audit, what would you see as the appropriate type of audit? Would it be a forensic audit? Would it be a hand recount of ballots? What would you like to see done?
71% of Detroit cannot be recounted, which means that the boxes that the ballots are in cannot be opened. 71% is egregious, and it happens in these communities of color. So if you cannot recount it because of a, quote, clerical error, according to Secretary Benson, these are not clerical errors. These ballots are hidden in. You can hide them in there until you're able to open them. There are processes that have been allowed so that when you cannot balance your precinct, you can go to a counting board or a board to evaluate them. At that time, those errors are supposed to be fixed, and they can open up the ballots.
Guys, I'm just going to say, and I'm sorry to say this publicly, Dr. Linda, you're probably going to kill me next time you see me, but this woman right here that's talking, she needs to be the next Secretary of State of Michigan. If Dr. Linda Lee Tarver was Secretary of State of Michigan, what happened in 2020 would never happen again, in my opinion. I'm just saying. How are they going to call a black woman a racist? How are they going to call a black Secretary of State who's highly educated, highly classy, highly sassy like Dr. Linda Lee Tarver? How are they going to call her a racist, huh? She's black.
The only way to open up the ballots right now to get your of the ticker tape that says these are the numbers, and there are bad ballots inside. You cannot look at the ballots if you do a recount. You need an audit in order to do a forensic audit to look at those ballots. Some absentee ballots that were coming in.
See how she's schooling these people, guys? I'm telling you, I'm smarter after every time I hear her talk. When she used to come to the Black Voices for Trump office in Detroit, I'm telling you, I walked out of there smarter than when I walked in after she talked. Thanks to her, I learned about Operation Warp Speed, of how, this was the quickest vaccine pretty much in history. Thanks to Dr. Linda Lee Tarver, I learned that there were poor black kids who had to take the state of Michigan to court just to get these Detroit public schools to teach them how to read. I learned that from Dr. Linda Lee Tarver. You know who else Democrats didn't used to allow to read and who they didn't want to read? Slaves. They haven't changed any of their tricks. With knowledge comes power and options and critical thinking. And these Democrats that run these inner city Detroits and schools, they don't want poor black kids knowing how to think critically. They don't want poor black kids learning how to read. Why? Because it's going to make these kids too smart to vote Democrat. It's going to make them smarter than them. And they're going to realize they have options. And Democrats can't have that. They need poor, uneducated blacks. And that's what they've been doing for decades, and I'm sick of it. And I love to see a classy, sassy black woman like Dr. Linda Lee Tarver get up there in front of the world on camera. The whole world is watching this, guys. The whole world is watching all these hearings. They were watching in Pennsylvania. They were watching in Arizona. They're watching in Michigan. I know for a fact, guys, just look at the comments on this video. Look at the comments on all my videos. I got people from Africa, Europe, Japan. I got people from all across the world tuning into these videos, people from Canada, because they want Donald Trump to win. They don't want to see Donald Trump out of office. So the whole world is being educated by Dr. Linda. Let's keep it going.
Were not even folded. How do you have a pristine, flat ballot without being folded if it was an absentee ballot? And therein lies some of the problems.
Think about that, guys, right? How could an absentee ballot be perfectly clean and unfolded? You have to fold the dang thing to get it in the envelope to mail it in. And according to sworn testimonies with criminal penalties of perjury attached to them, there were many absentee ballots that were perfectly clean and flat that were not folded. Many of which were counted multiple times. That's why you guys got to go over to my YouTube channel, subscribe, so that you can watch this entire 7-hour hearing.
Problems, and once it goes into the machine multiple times, you cannot open up the case. If you put the wrong number on the seal, you can't open it up. If you put in, it doesn't balance, you can't open it up. And so there's problems with what's going on. We need to open up those ballots for the integrity, because we cannot move forward in any further election.
Can I ask a follow-up? So I am curious.
Guys, the more we watch this, the more you're going to realize not only are they asking these questions to get to the bottom of things, but I believe as time goes on, and you'll see it as this continues to play out, and we're wrapping up, folks, don't worry. Try to keep these things under an hour if I can. But I believe that they're asking these questions so that they can learn and get educated, so that they can be better legislators and better public servants. And Dr. Linda Lee Tarver is just the person to teach them.
Curious, because I understand that a lot of them didn't balance. What is the appropriate process once you get done with the election and you've done the ballot count and you realize that they're not balancing? What would the appropriate?
She's basically an expert witness, guys. Dr. Linda Lee Tarver is an expert witness. That's what she is.
Appropriate process be right then?
The precinct inspectors or the precinct captain who is supposed to be trained are supposed to contact the clerk's office if there's any problem with balancing. You're supposed to know and have your hand on how many provisional ballots, how many spoiled ballots, where are the missing ballots, what's going on. You're supposed to take care of it at the precinct level and then close your precinct. But if some reason you're not able to, there's a counting board where you take your ballots to turn them in to say, I testify that I did this and I've got my paperwork, I've got my poll books, I've got the notes written down in the poll books or in our electronic poll books. And that counting board is supposed to say, you're not in balance. Let us open up that container and make sure those poll books are we can look at the ballots. We physically can look at them. But in these urban areas, they're lazy and they're not taking this, the civic right very seriously, or their duties very seriously. They take an oath when they do as a precinct inspector. They are not taking it seriously and have not for years. And the apathy toward the official duties here has become egregious, because once they decide not to balance that precinct, then it goes through and you have the hot mess that you had, where you have these canvassers, board of canvassers, 4 people that is supposed to amend that hot mess. Flint has never been able to balance, and there's touch points.
Do you guys notice her expertise on each of these cities? She's expert on Detroit, Pontiac, Flint. This is her wheelhouse, guys. She's been dealing with this crap for 29 years as a government worker.
Points across where they have the ability to open that up, to do a quote, honest open of the ballot itself, the container itself. If you're not able to open that container up, which after it leaves the counting board, you're not able to do it unless you get a court order or an audit. And no one has been brave enough to do it. 71% of Detroit cannot be recounted. We have nothing. And when we did a recount before, we saw some of the most egregious things when we looked through and did recounts before in Detroit. There's some things in there that should never have been in there. And
this is why I don't like the ideas of recounts, guys, because all a recount is going to do is recount the fraudulent ballots. We need an audit. This is why we need an audit instead of a recount. Or if we're going to do a recount, do the recount after the audit. Audit first, recount second. Why? Because the audit is going to trim off all the fake fraudulent fat out of all those voting ballots. It's going to get rid of the garbage. It's going to segregate it and set it aside. Then you recount all the legitimate ballots, which will confirm President Donald J. Trump's re-election landslide. An historic re-election landslide where there's evidence that he got as much as 410 electoral votes, that California went red, that Detroit went red, guys. Wayne County went red. But because of all this fraud and gobbledygook that happened, we're never going to know the real number now.
And that is what I'm telling you about when you're able to open up those ballot boxes. But it is not going to be at the Detroit canvasser level, and certainly not at the Michigan State Board of Canvasser level.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tice. Vice Chair Irwin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions for you
Sure.
that I'm going to ask you based on the fact that you've been around.
Now it gets a little contentious with this Jeff Irwin guy because obviously he's from Ann Arbor, so that says it all. For those of you in Michigan, for those of you who don't live in Michigan, Ann Arbor is like pretty much the abortion capital of Michigan outside of the inner city. So don't be surprised when you hear what you hear out of the mouth of Jeff Irwin. And they kind of go back and forth a little bit.
Around for a while, you've been an activist, you've been where you work for the Secretary of State's office, so that's why I'm going to ask you these things. I think my first question is, are you aware that there are audits done on past elections, and in any of your official or unofficial capacities, did you ever have the opportunity or cause to review those audits that looked into things like, dead voters and all that kind of stuff
Yes.
that we've done in the past?
Yes.
Okay, and did you find that the answers to those questions were that in fact these were clerical errors in previous audits that have been done by the legislative auditor general and been before this committee in the recent years?
So I've worked with Chris Thomas for years, and I've submitted some illegal stuff that I felt was illegal to them to investigate, and they were investigated. How they remedied it was not according to what I felt was necessary. There have been clerical errors, if you call it clerical. The law concerning your ability to be a precinct inspector, a poll worker, is that you have to have a sufficient clerical acumen in order to perform the duties, which means you should be able to read and write and add and subtract. And you should be able to perform the duties without any inhibitions. We know that there are over 500 precincts in Detroit, and many of the people who will come and get trained, some of them will not show up. But the ones that do show up, they are not given sufficient training on how to legally perform the duties that they have. However, if they are told that the challenger is the enemy, this person standing behind you is the enemy, and they have not been told that the person behind you must be protected, you will not be able to address some of the oversight, laziness, ignorance of the law, ignorance of the process, and lack of training. And so one of the ways that ballots are the election fraud occurs is when you have workers who are not properly trained. And that's where we are finding is lack of training. They're in a hurry. They're not sure what to do. But those clerical errors are mixed with clerical errors, but a lot of them are considered fraud. I would have referred all of them to the Attorney General if it were me. But Chris Thomas and others.
And that's adding to Christina Caramo's point that she made in her testimony. Where is Dana Nessel? Why is the Attorney General, just like we could say the federal Attorney General who oversees the Department of Justice, Bill Barr, just like he's not overseeing this and looking into this and investigating this? Why is the local state Attorney General of Michigan, Dana Nessel, not looking into all this voter fraud? Well, because she's a Democrat, that's why. She's not going to commit Democrat upon Democrat audit. She's not going to throw out her own people. That's why.
Decided not to. They tried to remedy those things as best they can, but unless you put the full faith into the law and start prosecuting people, we will continue to see what we've been seeing. 71% of Detroit cannot be recounted. And I would not want to run on a Detroit city nothing at all. I would not want to run in the city of Detroit knowing that there have been, quote, clerical errors, that some of them are illegal. There are ballot curing problems. We have seen people walk into the clerk's office in Detroit with a stack of 75 ballots. Janice Winfrey is standing next to me. And this guy is not related to all of these people. He's not a postal worker, nor does he work for the clerk's office. These are ballot harvesting has been going on. Inez Brown in Flint has been, the clerk of City of Flint has been complaining about it. These are not clerical errors. These are what's been allowed. And when you have drop boxes for all of these urban areas to make it convenient, you do not have the ability to check the drop box that I'm putting in 50 ballots. If you don't compare the signatures, you toss the signature out. You don't compare the signatures, you're supposed to. It's in the law. We are not following the law, and we are not following it in every election. And the larger the jurisdiction, which are people of color, people who look like me, the more fraud that can be inserted into.
I love it when black conservatives take that line away from liberals who love to say people who look like me. I love it when black conservatives say that, because people who look like me don't just vote Democrat.
To stealing an election, and that is a problem, and we need to stop it.
Okay, I almost am afraid to ask another question.
Ask the second question.
You've read the audits, you've seen them. We both read the audits.
They know me, so.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad we both read the audits. I just want to keep putting it out there that, in fact, it is part of Michigan election law that we have audits, and those audits have been done in recent elections, and they'll be done after this one as well. And, you know, I just want to put that out there. And then also, you know, one of the things
you're talking about a
post-election. That's
yes,
right.
but
That's what the law says.
they're insufficient.
I appreciate your
they're insufficient for what the purpose is. I'm asking for a forensic audit of the election itself.
Forensic audit for the fraud, so that the fraudulent ballots can be segregated, and then we do the recount. You don't put the cart before the horse. You audit first, you recount second. You separate the wheat from the chaff, and once you got the wheat over here and the chaff over here, you burn the chaff. Just like they need to burn all these fraudulent ballots.
Fraud and illegal votes.
Yes, and I'm wondering why the Trump campaign didn't want to do a recount, which would have been the normal process.
Why would you recount 71% of the votes cannot be recounted?
You know what? That's a problem. I want to agree with you on that. I'm trying to build up to agreeing with you.
Why waste your money and time? It costs money to do a recount. Why waste your money when 71% of the votes that you need to.
Not only is it more useless and dumb to do a recount without an audit, but it's more expensive than auditing. It really is.
Look at physically cannot be even seen.
Okay.
That
and that builds up to my next
29%,
question.
I'm not paying $2 million or $4 million for 29% of the ballots that can be counted, because the rest of them cannot be counted.
That's one of the reasons why I voted against the changes to the recall law that made it so onerous and difficult for people who wanted to look into these issues.
Open up the ballots.
The issue that you mentioned, that I just want to highlight for the committee, because I really agree with you on this, is that, you know, when you have a situation where there's a discrepancy at that precinct, those precincts should be recountable, and we need to find a way to make that so. And I think that what you're going to find here in Lansing is that there are a whole lot of Democrats who are going to agree with that. We want these ballots to be looked at. We want elections to be run in a safe and secure manner. But the problem is,
I don't buy it. I don't buy what Senator Jeff Irwin is saying, that there's a bunch of Democrats that want these ballots to be able to recount it. Because if that's the case, they've had 30 years to change the laws. They've been running everything in all these inner cities and all these precincts where all this fraud happens. So if they supposedly are on our side and wanting recounts to be done, they've had plenty of time. They've had decades to eradicate and reform all this fraud. He's just doing lip service. He's acting like he agrees with Dr. Linda, but I don't believe deep down in his heart that he does.
this legislature has been controlled by Republicans since the 80s. The state Senate has been controlled by the Republicans.
Now, that's another misleading thing. Yes, the state legislature had been controlled by Republicans, but what if we have a Democrat governor that blocks a bill every time we try to pass it through the state legislature to get it signed? And it gets blocked and sabotaged by people like Jennifer Granholm and Governor Whitmer. So that's very intellectually dishonest, in my opinion. He's being very disingenuous, putting the blame on the Republicans, the Michigan Republican legislature, for not reforming this. Because every time we would try, we get blocked by these leftist Democrat governors like Whitmer and Granholm.
Since the 80s. And so my question to you is, after the 2016 election, when we saw the problems that we saw that you just hinted at, when we had agreement apparently between a lot of folks about the fact that these precincts should be recountable, why did we see no changes in the law to address any of these issues while we had a Republican governor, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate?
So I'd be happy to answer that question. That's a very simple one. We have sufficient laws on the books. So my brothers and sisters in the Republican GOP has done their due diligence to pass laws, make laws.
Told you. What'd I tell you?
The enforceability of the laws, however, because in Grand Traverse County, we're not having this problem.
Exactly. And when they are passed, when we do have a Republican governor that works with the Republican state legislature, they're not enforced in these districts, in these leftist, black districts in these inner cities. What good is a law if it's not being enforced, right?
Certain counties that Van Buren County, we're not having this hot mess problems that we have in Pontiac and in Flint and in Detroit. We don't have that. So if you want Republicans to pass more laws, why don't the Democrats in their cities enforce the doggone election laws so that that we can have fair and just elections? Because I just gave you the law.
I'm fist bumping Dr. Linda right now.
Give my friend next door neighbor my ballot. It's a misdemeanor for me to give it to them, and it's a felony for them to turn it in. A felony. It is not enforced. And we have situations in the inner cities and these Democrat-controlled areas, because that's what we're talking about. Democrat-controlled areas cannot seem to balance their elections.
Guys, that's just a fact. She's being realist, not racist. That's just a fact, guys. Detroit is rotten through and through with its leadership. I'm not talking about the residents. Keep your words out of my mouth. I grew up in Detroit. I got good friends who live in Detroit. I still have family who lives in Detroit. I'm not putting down Detroit residents, and I'm not even putting down Detroit Democrat voters. I am calling out these corrupt legislators. Guys, Republicans haven't touched Detroit since 1957. The last Republican mayor of the city of Detroit was Mayor Mariani. Okay, that's almost 70 years ago, guys. Detroit has not only been run by these Democrats, but even more so, Detroit has been run into the ground by all these Democrats for going on 70 years. Republicans haven't touched Detroit. Yet there's been white flight after the 1967 race riots, and now there's even black flight. Even black people don't want to live in the city of Detroit anymore. Black people are fleeing to Southfield and Oak Park and all kinds of other places in Oakland County because these Detroit Democrats run the thing into the ground. They are greedy, they're corrupt, they're lazy, they're incompetent, and that's who they are. There's some good ones in there. I'm not talking about the good ones. I was on a panel discussion recently with a Democrat official who works in the city of Detroit. Great guy, incredible scholar and a gentleman, on my friend Brandon Bryce's Straight Talk radio show. I had a lot of respect for him. I'm not talking about gentlemen like him. He actually was speaking very kindly of President Trump about the urban opportunity zones, about school choice, about HBCUs. He was speaking very highly of Trump, even though he's not a Republican. There are good Democrats in Detroit. I'm not talking about them, and I'm not talking about the good people of Detroit who live there. I'm talking about these dirty Democrats, man, and they are so corrupt. My mom is a retired school teacher for Detroit public school systems. Guys, for years, I used to see my mom come home. I kid you not. At least 3 times a week, I used to watch my mom come home in tears, mascara running down her face. She used to have stains on her blouse from mascara and makeup dripping on her blouse from when she'd be crying throughout the day because of how corrupt people were in the Detroit public school system and everything that they put her through. Because she was good and honest, and she loved these kids that she taught. She wanted to help these kids that she taught. And she would come home crying every day from all the corruption that she witnessed, all the sabotage and corruption and all the things that were in place that were obstacles to these poor black kids that were trying to learn. And guys, my mom is white. My mom's Italian. I'm biracial. So my white mom used to love these black kids of Detroit. She had a black son. She's got 2 black daughters. And she was as passionate about teaching all these other black kids as she was teaching her own black kids. And I believe that corruption that she witnessed in the public schools in Detroit probably took some years off her life. She's still alive, but because of all the stress and cortisol levels, Who knows how many years that robbed her of living a longer life? That probably shaved off of her life. Stress is unhealthy. So I'm going to wrap this up. We'll play a few more clips from Dr. Linda, and we'll call the show.
And because they have been habitual violators of the inability to balance their election because of either ignorance, apathy, lack of leadership, or lack of caring about their election integrity, because if you add more laws to the books, you still have people who will not follow the law. And if you don't enforce the law, if you don't bring in Republicans to say, I am going to be a poll worker. If you need 5 Republicans in the building, make sure 5 workers are. Contact the Michigan Republican Party. Ask them for 5 people or 25 people or 200 people to work it. And then when the challengers come in, you protect them. You don't put them out. You don't call the police on them. You're supposed to protect them according to the law. If you follow the law in the urban Democratic controlled areas, then we would not be here today. I certainly wouldn't be here. But in 25 years that I've been monitoring elections, working with the Secretary of State, the last 8 doing election integrity, it's been a hot mess in the same Democrat controlled areas. We don't need any more laws. We need to enforce the laws, and we need to open up the doggone ballot boxes.
But we are agreed that we need to change the laws on recounting precincts. We do agree that we need to change the law on recounting precincts, right?
Pardon me?
Well, let's see how you vote on it, Mr. Jeff Irwin. Talk is cheap, man. Put your votes where your mouth is. Why don't you try that? What is your voting record? I would like to see Senator Jeff Irwin's voting record on recount reform in the state of Michigan, particularly in the city of Detroit. I bet you it contradicts everything he's saying right now.
We should change the law on recounting precincts. That was my question.
We're not changing the laws for recounting.
Screen, but the question was about that specific law, allowing the recounting of unbalanced precincts.
No, we're not.
Let's change that law.
We're not trying to talk about.
You see how the guy keeps bringing up recounting, recounting. Screw the recounting, man. Audit. Recounting, you know what recounting fraudulent votes is, guys? It's a little bit gross, but it's the only analogy that's going to help me drive it home. Recounting all these crappy, hot garbage votes that we know are fraudulent, whether they're Dominion votes that were flipped from Trump to Biden, or whether they're these fake mail-in ballots that weren't even folded up, or, because they weren't mailed in. They were boxed in and shipped in and walked in. It's like eating food. It's like eating bad food and then puking it out and eating it again. That's what recounting all these fraudulent votes is like doing. You eat this crappy food, right? You spit it out, you puke it out. I'm not going to say the other way you can get rid of it because that's going pretty too gross. But, keep that in mind too. And then you eat it again. That's what recounting fraudulent votes are, guys. Regurgitating bad food and eating it again. They need to be audited so that the true votes can be separated from the fake votes. The wheat needs to be separate from the chaff. The sheep needs to be separated from the goats, to use some gospel judgment day terminology that the Son of Man used to like to use in his sermons.
About recounting for imbalanced precinct. The balancing of the precinct can come at the counting board level. You think that the ballots come out and then all of a sudden it's given in and locked up in a box. It is not. Once it leaves the precinct, it goes to a counting board. They have the full authority to open up that ballots box because it's not balancing. If the seal is broken, if this is broken, they can reseal it at the counting board. There is a law with the counting board, and it's lazy in the inner cities of color, of people who look like me, are not doing their job.
There she's taking their line again.
Be done so that we can count 100% of the precincts instead of 29%. That's what needs to be done, is to make sure people are doing their job. You won't get that in an audit. What you will get in the current fake audits that we've been having and these fluff audits that we've had right now, you will get, well, these can't be recounted. So, okay, so we can't do that. Here's what we can. You'll get an audit of the 29% in Detroit that can be recounted. That's all you're going to get. Because we need to see the 71% of the fraud that has been locked up and will be destroyed after so many years. That's what we need to see.
Thank you,
I'll take
Senator.
any other questions.
Thank you, Senator Irwin. Senator Lucido.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Dr. Tarver. I got to tell you, I can't agree with you more. My whole problem is sitting in this chair today and leaving this Senate to go prosecute those crimes. Why was it when the Secretary of State, which you were there how many years?
I've been with the Secretary of State 29 years.
Almost 30 years. We've been in this room here over 6.5 hours. And the irony is it's about the same issue. If the people are doing their jobs and the integrity of the vote is being respected, we wouldn't be in here today.
That's right.
2 is 71% can't be counted because
Of fraud or apathy or incompetence or clerical error or all of the above.
So we did some testimony and the chairman was gracious enough to bring in 3 separate identifiable clerks from 3 separate identifiable counties. We asked these questions. How many of the ballots weren't signed that you didn't count? How many didn't look like signatures? I mean, we went into the deep dive because there's so many people that are so disenchanted. I don't want them to give up on the vote. I want them to remember that people sacrificed their lives for these amendments.
People who
Their lives, their limbs, and their mental health. Soldiers died. I'm friends with soldiers that fought for this country so that what happened in the TCF Center doesn't happen. As a matter of fact, I'm friends with soldiers who are shipped off to other countries to stop the kind of things that happen in the TCF Center from happening in those other countries.
who look like me died to get the right to vote.
Boom.
And I'm
People who look like me died to get the right to vote. You hear that, folks?
telling you, it is sacred.
And this discriminatory practices with women not getting the same right that men years ago. If it's a felony, it's a felony. If it's got to be prosecuted, it should be. Otherwise, the whole fabric of this entire nation falls apart. Discrepancies in the precincts, I get it, to my colleague up here. If you're going to have discrepancies, it's if it's an easy fix. But I'm not hearing things from all over the state. I'm hearing them in segregated areas, and I think you are targeting these areas by saying people are either inept to do their job or they don't care about doing the job.
They have either been instructed not to care or have been allowed to, over the decades, not to be held accountable for the lack of accountability in the sacred vote. When you have gone so many years, people do not want to be called racist.
Right.
And if you're going into urban areas, in particular Detroit, you're hearing, why are you trying to disenfranchise the Black vote?
Yeah.
You are racist, racist, racist.
I think this, and I
But that has been the mantra, to allow for the 71% of no accountability when we have safeguards in place to ensure the balancing of the precinct and the seal that is not broken.
Dr. Tarver, those ballots are not of color. They
I
are,
agree.
they are one color.
That's right.
And
Amen.
they go in and they have parties on them.
Amen.
And the disrespect that I've heard throughout the process in Wayne County, in Detroit, only leads me to believe that even an audit process, and I got to ask this question, if 71% can't be counted,
Cannot.
the audit process to spend the kind of millions of dollars that it would take, like, and I really don't even know what CPA firm or what firm would do an audit. Have you, in your almost 30 years with the Secretary of State, could you identify a firm that specializes in election audits?
We'd have to bring in the federal government. The forensic audit that is needed
Yep.
is not going to be what has been done in order to open up those ballot boxes, which we need to.
So
That's where we need to open up the ballot boxes.
if this has never been done, if this has never been done in the history of this country, I'm asking this question: does the legislature cumulatively or collaboratively work on a standard that would be the audit process, because the next thing I see is that there's going to be debate over the audit process.
I don't see the legislative body, this body, passing any law to.
It's funny how a man, and I love Senator Peter Lucido, but it's funny how he's part of the legislature and he's asking her questions about what's best for the legislature and tactics that they should do. And she's, all due respect, she's schooling Senator Lucido on what the legislature should be doing, what's best for the legislature, even though she's not part of it. Just how amazing she is.
To change anything, because must balance is not going to force Detroit to balance. Must balance is not going to force Inez Brown, the city clerk of Flint, to balance. Must balance. She has never been able to balance since she's been an election clerk there. So she's never balanced. Pontiac won't balance. There's a few other places, mostly urban areas, that will not balance. And they don't have to be as large as Detroit. They just won't balance. And if we don't have a mechanism in place, because once you pass a law that says we're going to do this, it is not going to be heeded, because then if you try to enforce it in the urban areas, you'll be considered a racist. You'll be considered disenfranchising the voters. You're just trying to check on us. Oh, black folks from Detroit need to have our whatever 71%.
It's such a wicked tactic that they do. This is what I'm saying, how these Democrats use dead black people, poor black people, low information black people as human shields for all their money-making schemes, for their power-grabbing schemes, for their voter fraud schemes. They hide behind poor black people, and I'm sick of it. I'm really sick of it, man.
And if you can't count it, you can't count it. And this Secretary of State will call it small clerical errors. And that is the mantra and talking points that should not be done. This is not a small clerical error. If there is fraud in those 71%, they need to be opened. Open the boxes. And that's going to be the new mantra, hashtag open the boxes.
Mr. Chair, I just have we're going to get down and drill down on this, but the reality is I don't think my colleagues on the opposite side of the aisle feel any differently. I think, to Senator Irwin's point, all of us want the integrity, respect, and trust. Otherwise, we sitting here as lawmakers make no sense if the vote doesn't count and it doesn't accurately reflect what's going on. But
that was certainly the sense.
So guys, I'm going to wrap up. I am going to show one more testimony. It's just a short 3-minute one of my friend Angelique Johnson. And then we're going to call it a wrap. But Dr. Tarver did incredibly well. I hope you guys go back and watch the entirety of this video, or at least listen to it while you're doing your thing. So let's listen to my friend Angelique Johnson. Then I'll give some closing thoughts and we'll call it a show. This is one of my longer shows, but it's very important, guys. We're in a very crucial time in our country right now. And I need to be educating and informing everybody so that you can keep the faith, so that you continue to get information from good sources. I sorted through a lot of these. I pretty much watched this whole thing, guys. And I sorted through, a lot of the stuff. But every single one of these testimonies was very compelling. And I think it's very important that you guys take the time to watch them, which you can find if you go over to my YouTube channel. I have the link in the description. So let's watch my friend Angelique, and then we will close out.
Any questions before Mr. Pennington goes?
I just want to look at this. Before I'm not a people offer over, but I'm longer than testify.
Is Angelique or Anson here?
Yeah, here she is. This is my good friend Angelique Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, is it Angelique or Angelique? Okay.
Very wonderful woman of God, guys.
With a Q before, so.
Angelique has a heart of gold, guys. If you ever have the pleasure of meeting Angelique Johnson, you won't regret it. She's a great gal. Love her to pieces.
Oh, it's
Forgive me.
just like in the Bible.
After Ms. Johnson, I have Kurt Hauschauer and Linda Brandis. Please, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. My name is Angelique Johnson. I'm a registered poll challenger and voter in Michigan. I was at the TCF Hall on November the 4th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I was called down to come and help out. I was told there wasn't enough representation for our side down there. And so I got up and went on down. I was credentialed and got in. And when I was in, the first thing that I saw after I was told what to do and what to look for. I worked at a table, the very first table, I saw a discrepancy. And at that time, I didn't have no one near me to talk to about it. I was supposed to go to the challenger at the table, or the person that was leading the table, but I was still asking questions. And because that person wasn't near me, because we didn't have enough representation, I had 4 tables to observe, you know. I observed the young lady take the ballot out, pass it to the next lady. She scanned it in as I was supposed to stand by the machine, the video monitor, to watch that process. And when she scanned it in, it wouldn't go. So then she tried again, or something happened, and she got her supervisor next to her, and the lady got up and went to another table and got one of the people in the shirts that was the supervisor. And she came back and told the young lady something, and the lady looked down in her book, and as I tried to walk over there to see, they told me to go back because I wasn't allowed to come that close to them, but to stand on the end where the monitor was. I would see everything there. And I could see her look in the book for the name that was on the screen. And I noticed that she found the name and she said, oh, or something like that. It was a discrepancy with this one, and they should have put that one out, and it's here too. So it seemed like it was 2. I don't know, because I wasn't as close. So I'm just telling you what I heard. And the young lady said, well, send it through anyway. That's what she was told to do. So I didn't know if that's something I should have challenged, and I should have, but I didn't because I was still learning the process. And when I went to find my supervisor, he said it was too late to challenge it then. So that was one of the things that I did witness. I witnessed as I stayed there for a while and left out to go to lunch because our room was upstairs, and came back. It was a crowd of people there by that time. And when a crowd of people was there at that time, they wouldn't let them in, but I got in because I was already credentialed. So I just kind of slid around to the side and went back in. And then I noticed a guy said, everybody get out. So everybody had to leave. They put things, cardboard over the windows, and a couple of cops were there. So I noticed that. And I also saw a lawyer also being put out. I looked up and noticed people were cheering, and the lawyer was being put out, and they turned around and asked him, what are you leaving for? And he said, because I asked him what's the count in here, because we had got information where they couldn't let anyone else in that was on our side to help. And I'm thinking, well, I want to leave. So, you know what, if I leave, can they like switch us out? And they's like, if you leave, you can't come back. And if you leave, they're not switching people out. So, you know, I left by 6 o'clock, and that's the things that I saw. All I could do is testify to what I saw and what I witnessed that day.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. Any questions from members? Yeah, Senator Tice, go ahead. You don't have to apologize.
When they said everybody leave, they didn't mean everybody. They meant some people, right? There were still people who were left in there. They weren't clearing the room.
When they said everybody leave, those were the people who had come to help relieve the workers who had been there the night before and into the next day. Those were the people who went upstairs where I were to get their credentials and everything, because you go upstairs, get trained, get your credentials, come downstairs and sign in the book. So it was a lot of them at the door. I got pictures. And those are the ones they wouldn't let in. They had some words. I came in and it was confusion going on right then and there. And all the TV cameras were taking videos of everything that was going on, because they really were yelling at each other. And they was like, we got the right to be in here. And the guy said, no, everybody leave. And that's all of the people who were at the front, who tried to get in to relieve the workers who were already there. Because I was told it was only 50 of us there. And I counted over 100 tables. And if it's supposed to be one Republican, one Democrat at each table to poll challenge, then that's why I had 4 tables to watch, you know.
So
So that's my friend Angelique Johnson. I was actually speaking with Angelique all day on November 4th when I was trying to get to the TCF Center. She was telling me everything that was going on inside, and she was there all day. So wrapping things up, guys, I appreciate everybody for tuning in today. I know it was one of my longer shows, but this was important information that you guys needed to hear. And I'm also doing this for the sake of those who were not able to make it onto the show. They're going to watch the recap of this, the recorded version of it. So if you haven't done so, folks, please like, comment, and share this video. It really helps me out with the algorithms. Please subscribe to all my social media channels. I've got a great little library on YouTube that's building. I've got lots of videos that I've done in just the last 5 or 6 months, many of which I did when I was still overseas in Thailand. And things are getting better, guys. My production quality is going up. I've got a lot of stuff on the way, guys, that as you keep tuning into the show, you're going to see us getting better and better and better bit by bit. And you guys are with me every step of the way, and I really appreciate your patronage. I really appreciate you sticking it out with me and bearing with me through some of the technical difficulties that I had earlier this week. So I look forward to seeing you guys on the next broadcast. Do not lose hope. Do not lose heart. Continue to educate yourself. Stay away from the fake news. Keep coming to my channels if you want to get all your good, genuine news and updates. But I not only give information, I also give inspiration and education. I want to uplift you guys. I want you to hang in there. I want to be your source of hope and reason and optimism throughout all this crazy mess. It ain't over till it's over. We still have 12 days before December 14th. And in that article that I cited the other day about how 20% of Biden voters already regret him, he hasn't even been certified the winner yet. He's not even president-elect yet. And a fifth of his voters are already regretting voting for him before his certification, before his inauguration, before his installation as president. He's already got a fifth of his voters that have buyer's remorse. That should tell you, that should be a foreboding sign of things to come if we end up having a deal with a Biden-Harris administration. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I love you, and I will see you on the next show. Take care.